But yeah, no, I like crunchy. I like
Yes.
crunchy.
I need a Joe on the podcast just for that.
It's all Star Wars. I'm such a nerd. Like just removing the berries. And everybody always says that. They come up to me and they're like, you thought of everything. I'm like, I guarantee you we did not think of everything. Like, keep that like feedback line open because we want to do good.
Welcome to Opportunity Accelerators, the show where professionals at any stage can learn how to level up their career from those that have found success and have the scars to prove it. Our goal for this show is to provide business mentorship and maybe some inspiration in a podcast, but we also touch on other topics in the tech industry, in particular, how we can close the tech skills gap in the U.S. by creating more and better pathways to advance tech careers. Opportunity Accelerators is brought to you by Skillstorm. We are the pioneers of and leaders in Tech Force by Design. Skillstorm custom designs, builds, and deploys cohesive US-based tech teams at scale for our enterprise and government clients. At Skillstorm, our purpose is to accelerate opportunity, and that means to enable our customers and stormers to go further faster as a result of their relationship with Skillstorm. I'm Vince Verga, along with always, actually, we are missing somebody today.
Yeah, we are.
Justin.
We are. It's going to be a great podcast today without him.
Joe Mitchell is not with us, but of course, the OBA of Opportunity, the CEO of Skillstorm, Justin Vianello is. What's going on, Justin?
Vince, Aniza, I'm very excited about our guest today. Vince, always good.
Very good. So yes, our guest today is Aniza Brown. Aniza is the Chief Executive Officer of the Rosie Project in Ogden, Utah, leading the initiative to empower military spouses to enter into the world of tech through a hands-on approach focused to remove barriers of entry. Their mission is to educate and empower military spouses to advance their careers into mission-critical positions within the Department of Defense alongside their spouse's military career. Aniza and the Rosie Project are also working with Skillstorm, which we'll get into a little bit as well. But Aniza, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Good to have you here. So Aniza, I want to kick off on a personal question. We've done a little bit of investigation, and we understand that when you were at university, your husband used to bring you bags and bags of bacon.
Wow.
So, So I have two questions for you on this. Firstly, why bacon? And secondly, how do you like your bacon? Is it juicy and delicious or crispy and dry?
Ooh. Okay. So bacon is life. Like I think that's how I made friends in college. I was in engineering. Nobody talked to each other, but then like a bag of bacon shows up and everybody wants to be my friend. But no,
not many vegetarians.
No.
That's
No.
cool.
As soon as I walked in the room, it was like bacon smell. And they're just like, best friends? I'm like, yeah. But yeah, no, I like crunchy. I like
Yes.
crunchy.
I need a Joe on the podcast just for that.
I'll have you know, I was outnumbered on that before you joined us, Aniza. So thank you for that.
My wife's American, so she likes them. Her view is you've got to be able to snap it. And that I can't do that. So, well, thanks for clarifying. That was very exciting. So getting to your current initiatives that you're involved in, part of the Rosie Project, obviously we'd love to understand more about that, but maybe you can just tell us about the story of Rosie the Riveter. Maybe we can just start there, and then, how that motivated you to set up the Rosie Project.
Yeah. So this actually started at Hill Air Force Base. I used to be the chief of corporate transformation at Hill, and I kept seeing some issues with military spouses not really getting into the community. Now you go back, my grandmother was an original Rosie. And so having her always telling me to get after things and not slow down, and I belong in every room I enter, had like a profound meaning to me. So when you look at the Rosies and how in World War II, when men went to war and women went in and started doing the riveting, the electrical work, anything that had to be done on any of like the missiles or our planes at the time, they built their own community, which a lot of people don't know. So you think like, oh, they're just coming in, they're just, working hard and then they go home. No, somebody had to watch the kids. Somebody had to wash the clothes. And that's really the essence of the Rosie Project, is where we become the community that helps you do that. You don't have to do it alone. And that kind of sparked what we ended up building. That's why we include daycare and things like that. But the whole initiative of Rosie the Riveter and the I don't know if I can say it, the badassness that comes with her was like super important for us to capture.
And so talk to us a little bit about your background growing up. It obviously sounds like your grandmother was a huge influence for you. Obviously you pursued engineering and STEM. How did you get into that? You know, how did your family support you through that journey?
Yeah, I probably said like apologize to my dad. I like would take my dad's stuff and just tear it apart. If something was wrong with it, I was like, don't worry, I got this. I'm going to find it and I'm going to fix it. And I mean, sometimes fix things, mostly break things. And so I just got like, my parents were very different. They brought me up thinking that I could do absolutely anything I put my mind to it. Like I played football with the boys in the neighborhood. I wasn't allowed to play football with them because I was too aggressive. Like, I mean, it just like I could do everything anybody else could do. And that led into engineering and how I got there. I was originally a physics major. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to be a doctor. I just kind of want to like do engineering and build cool stuff. So then I went over and became an electrical engineer with software background. And then immediately went into like defense work until I got to Hill, which is where
how did you get involved in defense work?
So Raytheon, which was the old Hughes, was the big company in Arizona, in Tucson, and that's where I'm from. So went there, worked on digital semi-active lasers, on missiles, like did software. It was fun, and then ended up transferring over to Hill Air Force Base for way cooler stuff.
So you ended up in Utah at Hill Air Force Base, and how did your career progress once you got there?
So I'm a little different. Like I like to shake the cage when you know there's a better way of doing business. So for me, that meant I come in, we're doing F-16 software in a waterfall pattern. Like things weren't matching up with us saying we were the fastest and we're the best at what we do. So we started pushing towards Agile. I was on the F-16 team, then moved over to helping. A general pulled me up through, like I went from like just a little engineer to like one of the only female directors and probably the only director under 40.
Well,
like I was the person that nobody was like, she belongs here. And it all started with, we had an issue in software. So we have a lot of people don't know this, is we have one of the biggest software factories in Utah at Hill Air Force Base. They do all of the maintenance, and when people think maintenance, you think, oh, they're sustaining things that's old and archaic. No, we're putting the really cool stuff on the jets. So like auto GCAS and switching out the computers, making things digital. So we did some really cool stuff there. And then I had a general who I met. First time meeting him, I'm like, please, don't say anything stupid. So I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go and say hi. And I like shook his hand and I'm like, I'm Aniza Brown. And he's like, cool. He's like, are you the software girl? And I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah, I do software. And he goes, can you build apps? And I was like, yeah. And then I'm like, okay. And I go and get a soda and I sit down and I'm like, oh, didn't say anything stupid. And he immediately turns around and he goes, Miss Aniza Brown is going to build me an app. And you just see my whole leadership chain just turn around and be like, what did you say to him? And so that's how it started. Like he was like, build an app. And I'm like, the Air Force isn't built for that. And I went through every barrier. I would like setting up meetings. He's like, you really called that person? I'm like, was I supposed to like not? Like, I wanted to get things done. So we built the app. And then he asked me what I wanted to do next. And I wanted to get after inefficiencies in software factories in the Air Force. So he enabled me to do that. We took 100 software developers off base, got them into an environment where they could actually deploy quickly. It's the same location where we actually put Kubernetes on a T-38. It was awesome. It was just like the coolest time to be a part of the DoD when the whole Dr. Roper thing was starting.
So you were chief of corporate transformation, sort of as you progressed through through the various roles. Can you talk to us a bit about that? Was that part of these initiatives you're talking about?
Yeah. So one, hiring in the DoD is known for being very lengthy and tedious. So what we did is I had a team of software developers develop a new page separate from USA Jobs for direct hire authority, and took hiring from, I think it was like 6 to 9 months down to like 6 weeks. The efficiency enabling and automating processes. That's like the capability that we were trying to get after originally. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to do all these other things too, because you just want to make things go fast. I mean, we'd just gone the F-35 there at Hill Air Force Base, and it's a badass jet, but you have to be able to move as fast as the technology. And I mean, if you're not, then you're not relevant. So that's kind of like what drove me within the corporate transformation to change as much as I could.
And so you were, how long were you at Northrop Grumman?
Like 2 seconds.
and then talk to us about what happened after that.
It was actually like 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what?
And then I became the executive director for Catalyst Campus. We built out a massive ecosystem, really unleashed a lot of capability with the local university and a lot of collaboration. I think sometimes in the military, we think that we got to do it all ourselves, or it's not going to be done right. We now have like cooperative research agreements and opportunities to like share resources. So, okay, a small business can't come and sit in a skiff on base. Well, let me build that skiff off base, and let me ask the state for that money, because that's actually going to drive tax dollars and drive capability and keep workload here. So that was a massive, amazing opportunity, and it's still growing and still fostering. And then right after that is when I started Rosie Project.
So just a quick follow-up question there. So you're doing some work with the universities. We found at Skillstorm, obviously there seems to be a bit of a disconnect between what a lot of these kids are learning in university and what's really in demand, in whether it's the government sector or the private sector. Yep. What was your experience there? And what advice would you give to somebody that's pursuing their computer science degree to really be in a position to get the job they want when they graduate?
Yeah, I think it's important to know you want to get into like computer engineering or software. I like the original, like our local university has a class where you go and get to test out electrical, software, mechanical, really get to understand what you want, but also like be able to see it. That was the thing with the universities. We were no longer just saying like, oh, we would love to have you guys intern and go sit over here. We're like, no, intern. And now you're sitting with a software developer on F-35. They're going to show you what they're doing. They're going to show you how they're doing it. So it's building that. There's almost a gap. Like no one's going to do the same thing. No one's going to deploy Agile the same way. No one's going to be doing waterfall the same way. And it's trying to bridge the gap of like that on the job training. So, I mean, that's how we do it. And that's how we've been doing it so far. It's been insane, not just for academia, but for small businesses, to understand what is the day-to-day for an engineer, or what is the day-to-day for the pilots who are our customer.
Sure.
And you're involved in a number of other initiatives, and you seem to have been pretty busy. I saw Silicon Slopes as one of them. Maybe can you talk through some of the other initiatives you're involved in, some of the boards that you sit on, and how that drives your passion?
Yeah. So I'm on quite a few boards. So Women's Tech Council is one of my favorite boards. We actually they host an event every year, and it's like my favorite day of the year. They bring, I think this last year, they had like 5,000 like middle school, high school girls who came through to come and build things and like get to talk to a bunch of female engineers. And it was so cool. The governor comes out and talks, to them and tells them like how important it is to get into STEM, and how those barriers of wherever any barriers come from, they can rise above it. And these are your resources. We had robots, drones. I mean, really just trying to grasp the interest of young girls and keep it. I think that's so important. And we're seeing it with Rosie Project. We don't ask anybody to come in and know like what technology we need them to know. We want them to come in and learn out the door from us and work with the DoD hand in hand.
That's great. So, I have a daughter. Justin has a daughter as well. If what advice would you give to somebody that's a parent of a daughter to encourage them to pursue STEM?
Yeah. So something so I have a daughter. Her name's Sophia. She's 3. She's a banshee, just like me. And trying to get her into events. So we go to all of the robotics events. We go to as many events as we can. She says she wants to be a princess astronaut, and I'm like, like I will show you all STEM things I can take you to. Like if I can show you an F-35, an F-16, like whatever is going to spark that interest, and then on the back end, ensure she knows she has no limitations. Like I think that, ironically, when I had done an opening speech for an event recently, and that was the biggest comment. People were like, "Well, wow, like, how do you tell your kids they can be anything?" It's like you tell them they can't. Like you don't tell them they can't.
Right.
Like I mean, if my kid wants to go and look at bugs and that's just it. Like I just want to make sure that whatever they're interested in, I can build upon it. And she's shown an interest in robotics, so we're just slowly trying to build upon it, and then she can take it where she wants to. But I want to give her every opportunity, anything, way more than ever. Like I didn't have any of that. I don't think
Yeah.
I saw a computer till I was like in high school. Like,
Wow.
yeah, weren't that wealthy. So
Yeah.
it was like, now kids have computers on their phones. They have it everywhere. It's just making sure that they are using it to build their path
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying, get them inspired by the kind of the big stuff, right? Like the F-35. I mean, a mind-blowing piece of equipment, and then from there, how does that work, right? And
Yep.
kind of bring them along that way. Is that kind of the recommendation there? Yeah.
I take them to all the events. They get to see how Coca-Cola, our local Coca-Cola bottling company, isn't just a bottling company, it's a tech company.
Yeah.
And how does that work? Go to the Amazon warehouse, see how all the little robots are running around doing everything. It just, whatever could spark their interest, and then help them get there.
So, Aniza, what's your long-term vision for the Rosie Project? Where do you want to take it? Where do you want it to go? Maybe you can just share some of that with us.
Yeah. So how it started, to be honest, first is I didn't have the community to stand this up when I wanted to, when I worked at Hill Air Force Base. And then when I was working at Catalyst Campus, I had the community. I had senators, mayors, the school, Weber State working with me, and the base. And that's how it all started. And it was like, just like after hours, do you think this is going to be a good idea? Tell me if it's not, because I'm not going to waste my time.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked it up as an after hours project. And we launched it after 2 days, our first 2 cohorts were completely full. And then I freaked out and shut it down. But it now is becoming, people are asking us to go there by name. They're saying, well, Rosie Project does this. Rosie Project's been this successful. I mean, we had 100% placement rate. We've had such high test scores, and that's the goal. It isn't to get somebody a certificate, it's to get them into a position where they can move anywhere with their active duty member. But now we have growth across AFSC, the Air Force Sustainment Center, and then Navy's now requesting it. And we're just growing with the requests, because those are the grassroots efforts. That's where the community and the want comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also been looking at Okinawa, Lake and Heath, Aviano, all of those locations. And those are the worst because they're overseas. So you don't actually it's harder to get people to go there and train and get people to get jobs. But now we're talking, like I was talking to Texas Instruments just recently, they're like, we're already there. Like we just need people, and we'll pay for a visa. We'll do whatever we need to get them to be able to work there. And it's removing those barriers, but also understanding those barriers. So I'm hoping the next couple of years it will be worldwide. Slow, and keep the integrity, but that's what we're going for.
There you go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand. My cousin was in the military for many years, still is. Having to move every 4 years. If you're a spouse, that means you're moving every 4 years. That means the family's moving every 4 years. And I don't think people understand how much of a challenge that can be. And so, what you're doing is so helpful in terms of providing that employment mobility for the spouses. And certainly I can see it only expanding. There's a lot of support around this. Well, by all means, everything I'm hearing is your team's doing a great job. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here to really grow.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great initiative.
And it's fun. I mean, it's fun. I like for our local location, we get to walk in and we go and go to the classroom, talk to the students. Right next door is daycare. So now they no longer have to worry about daycare. If their kid upset, wants to eat lunch with them, they can do that. Like, I don't know how hard it was as like a mom to go back to work. Like, it was like, now I'm being like, okay, well now like come study with us, but your kid's next door. So if you want to go over there and like hang out with them, you can. And it's just the capability and the opportunity for these mill spouses. And it's men and women. I had one gentleman who had to quit his job as a nurse while his wife was deployed, and had to be the home taker, like the person who was taking care of the house, because there was no option, and he couldn't be out with COVID or bringing COVID into his house. So giving them the opportunity to build their career alongside their active duty members, I mean, that is everything to us. And removing the barriers. So we provide laptops, and the big thing and the most successful component is the daycare.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine going to school with 2 kids. Like my son literally, like on one of the most important calls of my life with a general, punched my laptop because he was like, I want attention now.
Oh yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that. Yeah. I also noticed, and obviously what you're doing is being recognized. I noticed on one of your social media posts, you actually had a letter from the governor of Utah, sort of recognizing you and recognizing what you're doing. How much of that continues to motivate you, sort of seeing the impact and then seeing the recognition?
So sometimes I run under the radar on recognition, and the more recognition, I like it when it's no longer Aniza Brown and it's Rosie Project. Like that's my hype point. Like I'm just like, oh, it's not a person, it's a big concept now. Our governor has been awesome. Our mayor's been awesome locally. There's a lot of people that actually helped me build this. I didn't build it by myself. I built it with the community of people who saw the same need I did and formed around it. We have the next 7 years in the state of Utah paid for Rosie Project. Like that's a state initiative.
Yeah, amazing.
And then when we go to other states, they're saying, well, we need the same thing. We are short people, and this is an underserved population. We want to have people in tech. We want to be able to build all this, but they don't have the infrastructure. And it's very, like, to us, it looked simple. We've learned a lot along the way. We had to be agile. So I'm not going to lie. Like, we move and shake when we need to. And if something doesn't work, we fix it really quickly. But that's kind of like how it all kind of started, and how and that's why we're here where we are. And so recognition aside, I want Rosie. Like Rosie Project, that badass logo on your hat, like that's it. Like
I was going to ask where that logo comes from, actually. That's my next question.
Ooh, I built it. I like Star Wars.
All right, you got to tell us about the tattoos that are on it. I don't know. Here.
It says, "You see me rolling." It's like it's all Star Wars. I'm such a nerd. So like in F-16, we like everything was Star Wars. The coolest project to be a part of out of Boston was Kessel Run. Like it's so much Air Force / Star Wars. We watch Star Wars every year. I still watch Star Wars every year. My kids are like, "Why?"
What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
I like the old stuff.
Yes.
I don't like the new. I like the like chomping and not CGI stuff. So
yes. you know your bacon and you know your Star Wars movies.
You know how you like your bacon. You know how you like your Star Wars movies.
So Aniza, you had mentioned briefly a sort of success story with that gentleman that was in the program. Is there another one that sort of pops into your mind of somebody that came through the program and found success?
There's been so many. I mean, I'm not an emotional person. So I'm just like, I go to these events and I'm just like, I'm here to praise you guys, not me. And like 2 seconds in, I'm crying. Like someone's talking about how much adversity they had to run into before they could get here, that they wouldn't have been able to do this because they have, 2 kids under 5 and they couldn't afford daycare. Like those are the things. And then seeing where they land. So whether they're working at Hill Air Force Base, moved to Dayton, moved to Florida, Ramstein, and that's the other part of the Rosie Project, the connections that we're building continue to grow. And more people are like, how can I help? How can I help? Like, where can we hire people? Or how do we move this person here? Do they have questions about, what's the job going to be like in Ramstein? So we have so many like success stories, and it's just removing the barriers. And everybody always says that. They come up to me and they're like, you thought of everything. I'm like, I guarantee you we did not think of everything. Like, keep that like feedback line open because we want to do good. And that's it.
So what is the scope currently? Is it potentially any military spouse, if they're interested, they could reach out to you?
Yep. And we originally started with 20 students. And then by the second cohort, we were up to 40. And then we doubled the daycare. So the need was there. And then it's also working with the base to figure out what would they hire for. And how do we get those positions open to our male spouse? How do I make them so competitive they walk into that interview and there's like not a single person who could touch them? Like that's what we get after.
And what sort of technology would you say you guys specialize in?
So we're really focused on IT networks. So we have them setting up IT networks, taking them down, doing static analysis, all the same things that we see in an IT specialist at Hill Air Force Base is what we base it off of. And then it works well because all the contractors around, which are all located in the other bases at those locations as well, have the same jobs. So right now we're IT, we're looking to expand our program management. And then my big, like I'm going to ruffle the feathers and make people cry is software. So software under a software specialist, non-degreed. And that will be the next feat. And I've talked to some senior leadership in the Air Force and joint forces to shake that cage. But that's the biggest one I could see being my pivot point.
Yeah. Amazing.
Awesome. All right, Vince, are we ready?
Oh, it's
We're
time.
ready for the lightning round. I think it's
Drum
time.
roll.
Here we go. Would you implant a Neuralink chip in your brain?
No.
Is it true that the Utah state bird is the California gull?
Yes! Just do that.
Who's been the most influential person in your life?
May Creer. She is the original Rosie. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Favorite TV show?
Sex in the City.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Get shit done.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Italy.
What's the longest conference call you've ever had?
4 hours.
Oof.
It's like one of those
Okay.
ones where you need the cup that comes up and says, this should have been an email. Like, immediately.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oof, fly.
Texting or talking?
I'm an engineer. Texting.
Okay. Now, you're in the state of Utah. This last question is pretty important. Is Bigfoot real?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, done. You made it through. Good work. Of course it's real. It's Utah. Come on. All right. Well, that was awesome. Thank you, Aniza. Yeah, I think that's the fastest we've ever got through a lightning round. So well done.
Yeah, very decisive.
Well done. That was very decisive. I like it.
So Aniza, if anybody out there wants to get a hold of you or get more information about the Rosie Project, how do they do that?
Yeah, rosieproject.org. Super easy. Just go rosieproject.org, look me up on LinkedIn. I'm hyper involved in the program. I love going and having lunch with our Rosies. So any questions, anything, just come find me.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, it's been great hearing your story, and
Yep.
you know, especially love talking to people that are so committed to their purpose that you have for the organization. Obviously, doing some incredible stuff, and we're excited to be working with you. So, you know, thank you for that, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
course.
It's been
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you for being with us.
This episode of Opportunity Accelerators has been brought to you by Skillstorm, where our purpose as an organization is to launch and accelerate tech careers. Please be sure to like and subscribe to catch the next episode.